Hey, what's going on everybody? Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I'm really excited to help you guys today because today we're going to be talking about some music theory, my overall approach with how I deconstruct music theory to make it make sense for me, and basically just any sort of tip and trick along the way to where music theory doesn't feel so daunting, especially in this genre that is hard rock and metal music. I use music theory every single day when I write riffs, and I'd like to think I'm kind of well known for writing some pretty cool riffs. I think that's kind of a part of, my branding and stuff like that. So I want to let you guys in on like how my brain works and just my overall approach to making sense of music theory and applying it to the instrument, okay? So I've made several videos like this in the past, so some of this will be a little bit of a refresher or, something that I've said before, but in case you're new here, this will be the first time, you get to hear this from me, and, if it is a refresher for you, ain't nothing wrong with just like hearing something again and making it stick, especially if you clicked on this video, because that kind of just means to me that you might need a little bit of a refresher and some help along the way, okay? So I've got some friends with me for this video, but before we get into it, if you could do me a huge favor, if you could subscribe to the channel and let me know that you guys like this type of content by liking the video and leaving a comment down below saying that you enjoyed this video, because it's just a great way for me to receive feedback from you guys. These videos always seem to do well, and I truly enjoy making them, so I look forward to hearing from you guys down below in the comment section, okay? We're going to be talking about some different, topics and theories, no pun intended, and some different verbiage along the way. But my goal here is to explain it in several different tunings, it meaning music theory, explaining it in several different tunings, and therefore, make it make sense to where like we're not just in standard tuning or whatever. We can apply it to a tuning that is a little bit more, commonplace in this genre. But I'm going to focus on the low strings because that is predominantly what we play on in this genre, that is the low strings, right? But then also too, I'll tell you guys how you can incorporate the other strings, therefore you're not just married and stuck to the low string or something like that. I'll deconstruct the entire fretboard for you guys, and therefore, hopefully we can get you set up and, more inspired to use music theory in your own creative endeavors, okay? I'm going to be teaching in a drop tuning. I personally always play in a drop tuning, especially when touring and especially when creating. That's just kind of like my go-to, and I think drop tunings are more common compared to any sort of standard tuning in this genre. But I will say this, no matter what the tuning is, if it's a drop or a standard, you don't really have to change anything other than one string. Calibrate one string. We go down a whole step when we drop it, but what I'm trying to say here is like the principles, the rules, the motifs, the modes, the values of the intervals, all that stuff really doesn't change in terms of like how they all connect to each other, okay? So I'm in drop D, okay? Very Tool, very Lamb of God, old school Trivium I think was in drop D. So we're going to be teaching in like the standard drop tuning to start. So I've said this in other videos in the past, but again, I always 100% of the time use whatever I'm tuned to as my reference point and like my key focal point, literal key, meaning music key. And the reason being is because in this genre, whenever we pick a specific tuning, a specific drop tuning, we choose that tuning because that's what we want to play in, right? Like very seldomly do we ever say like, oh, I'm going to tune down to drop F and then never use the low F note, right? Like usually the songs, 90 to 95% of the time, rough guess right there, but most of the time we choose that note, that low note as our reference point, as our key, because that's the whole point of altering the guitar tuning anyway, right? Like we don't tune down to drop F and then never use the F. What's the point? You would just tune it to whatever note you want to use the most. That's generally how most guitar music in this genre is written, right? Generally speaking, and I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So my point is with all that is like if I'm in drop D, I specifically tuned my guitar to this position because I want to use the low D note and or sound. Right? It's cool. So the first thing that I always do is I pick a mode. All right. Now modes are so otherworldly still to this day, but they are so simple. And when I understood what modes were and when, I was able to make sense of them in my head, I was so frustrated because like when I realized what they were, I was like, that's it. That's what modes are. That's just the simple concept. They're not hard at all, okay? So we'll get there today. So I use the major scale as my baseline for everything because everything can be reverted back to the major scale. So the major scale is the granddaddy scale. And if we're using D as our reference point here, the major scale of D is D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. That's the major scale of D. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. Highly recommend you guys write that down, okay? Take some notes or reverse this video and make that stick, okay? So if I'm playing a D major song, I'm in the key of D major and I'm in a drop tuning, well, I just follow a D major scale on the low string. And no matter the tuning, no matter the how many strings you got, if you follow the open string and follow that pattern, you will magically make a major scale. Whole steps and half steps, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. This is review on my channel specifically, but I'm catching you all up to speed again, in case you're new here to the channel or you want to hear it again. So in terms of frets, it's 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 12. So if I was to just play it on one string, that's a major scale. So if I want to play in the key of D major, I literally follow those notes and those frets on the guitar. And as long as I don't deviate from them, all of the notes that I just played will always be in key, and there's no exceptions to that rule. The letters are as follow: open D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. So the scale that I just labeled out for you guys in terms of the notes literally lands on those frets. So you marry the notes of the scale to the frets that you're supposed to hit, and then they perfectly match up with each other. So that's something that I would highly recommend you guys drill into your head, because the faster you get that concept, the faster that everything else will fall into place. Now, what's amazing about drop tuning guitars, and this is why I love them so much, is we have another string, the fourth string, that is tuned exactly to the low string, just one octave, aka one pitch higher. So the fourth string, the high D, also follows that same exact principle. So the fourth string's also in key in terms of D major. So what's amazing about that is one scale on one string is 8 notes, and then you multiply that by 2, you have 16. So you have 16 spots within one octave of where you can land. So check this out. Play them at the same time. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. You have 16 spots from 0 to 12 that you can land on that are guaranteed to be in the key that you're trying to emphasize. And in this instance, in this example, it's D major. So I've done this before in other videos, but check this out. I'm going to put myself on the spot here. I'm going to improvise. I'm going to try to write a riff. And this is something that I highly encourage you guys to do to work out this muscle, right? Because this is, in my opinion, something that is really only comprehended if you put it into practice and you try it yourself. You could listen to me all day, but until you start to play and start to think like I'm encouraging you to think, it won't really stick that well until you actually do it. All right, so here we go. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to emphasize the low D string because that's my root, that's my key, that's my focal point, that's my star of the show. And then I'm just going to do my very best to try to make something musical by just choosing to outline those 2 strings. I'm not going to play anything else but those 2 strings. Here it goes. I almost hit the fifth string. I got close there. We're not going to talk about the fifth string just yet. That's coming up next. But if you notice there, that riff wasn't exactly setting the world on fire, but it sounded like music, right? It sounded like, okay, that's a riff. That's a skeleton of a riff. You know, you can obviously pretty it up and make it more complex or add other voicings, meaning notes against other notes, voicings. You know, that's a terminology that is heard all the time all over the internet and in music school. But for right now, all I was doing right there, putting myself on the spot, was just trying to come up with some sort of rhythmic motif, some rhythmic theme. Like I instinctually went. That's just like what I did. I just instinctually went and did that. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but it sounded, again, like a riff. So that's something I really encourage you guys to do and to try yourself, is put yourself on the spot. Try to get that creative juice flowing to where like you're put in a box. You're put into some parameters. These are the notes you can play. This is the key. And therefore, as long as you hit the landmark frets and or notes, it will make sense 100% of the time. And then it's up to you to determine which notes you want to hit and where you want to land on the fretboard, right? And one final thing I'll say too is, if you notice, I was choosing to chug, 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 chug on the low D note because, again, like I said in the beginning of this video, when you're playing in rock and metal music, hard rock, metal music, whatever you want to call it, you're always instinctually and organically chugging at some point, right? Generally speaking, that's like the characteristic of the music. That's the technique that we use that always identifies this genre, right? So I'm always choosing to tell the audience, tell the listener, and tell my bandmates, you know, my invisible bandmates here, that, hey, this is how the riff goes, and we're making this note the start of the show. That's what we're going to choose to emphasize and make the audience and make the listener latch onto. Let's talk about the fifth string, because we're starting from like a rhythmic standpoint, like a rhythm guitar player standpoint. Well, what's amazing about drop tuning is the A string, or the fifth string, is tuned to a fifth above the low string. And if you know anything about fifths, root notes and fifths, that interval is called a perfect fifth, and the slang for that is called a power chord. So what's cool about drop tuning and why I love it for this genre is you always have a power chord in your back pocket. Power chord, always right there, and you can just one finger it up and down the fretboard. I love doing that. That's just like my favorite thing to do whenever I play music. Just always in a drop. It's just easier to play. It's more fun to play. Ain't nothing wrong with doing an open chug every now and again, right? So let's dissect the notes of the fifth string. So it's tuned to just plain old standard A, just a standard tuning with the low D, drop D, right? So I'll put the letters of D major on the screen right now. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. And I'm recalling that just so you guys know from memory. I have D major memorized. So I highly recommend you guys memorize scales because it'll just make sense, all right? You got to know what you're looking for when you're landing on frets and notes to know if it fits or not. You got to cross-reference what you already know. So if you know D major off the top of your head, when you put your finger down on a fret and you play the note, and you can look at your tuner, you can cheat if you want. It ain't cheating, it's just a tool. But like when you cross-reference it, does it fit in the key, yes or no? The faster you know that knowledge and the faster you can do that work, the faster things will happen for you. So here's all the notes of D major on the fifth string. A, open, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A. So what's interesting there is all the frets are the same, meaning 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 12 are all the same except for the A string. You got to go 9, 10 to make it in key. Because right here it gets a little wonky, a little funky. The 10th fret right here is a G natural. This is a G sharp on the 11th. G sharp does not fit in the key of D major because again, D, E, F sharp, G. G natural. So you don't really need to worry about that, but it is something to keep in mind. Meaning, like, if I was to make a D major riff and I was going like, you do have to know that, like, the 10th fret's in key if you're doing like single notes. But if I was to just riff with power chords going like, that fifth above on the 11th fret, the G sharp, it's technically out of key, but I think that sounds more pleasing than if I was to do something like this, like go. Right there, that's a pretty like interesting sound. Right? Like that sounds a little wonky. That's a different interval compared to like a pleasing sound. So my point is, it's like, that's actually called a tritone. So if you put a tritone in a major song, I don't know if it'll sound good. It's correct in theory, but does it sound good? In my opinion, no. So I personally take on the liberty to be like, you know what? I don't care if it doesn't sound good. I like the way that sounds, and I'm just going to use the note, the G sharp, out of key because it just sounds good. All right. So like that's a whole creative thing. That's a whole, you know, video in of itself of like choosing whether or not to use things that sound good versus things that are correct in key, especially when you bounce other notes against one another, like different voicings against one another. A tritone, although it's in key right here, doesn't necessarily sound that good, right? Like it's a little, doesn't sound that good. Breaking this all down, we now have labeled out all three of the low strings. So there's a riff of mine, a song of mine called Phrygian that I wrote maybe like 6-7 years ago. It's one of my favorites. It's in D major when I wrote it. And I play in D major and I use all of these landmark spots. I think it sounds cool. You know, that song is written in drop D, D major. Now, hopefully it's in key and in tune. You know, I'm playing with a Les Paul, and they're not necessarily known for the most most stable guitar in terms of tuning stability, but it's rock and roll. You guys understand what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to convey to you guys, right? Let's talk about the other three strings. Now, I personally don't really focus on the high three strings because from a riff standpoint, I'm more interested in riffing on the low strings. Take that with a grain of salt. I have lots of riffs that are on the high three strings, but my train of thought and my process with all this starts on the low three strings. So what I can do to you, or what I can do for you guys right now, is walk you through how to find other landmark spots using a concept that you guys probably already know since you clicked on this video, and that is the concept of octaves, right? So if we're in a drop tuning, an octave's on the 5th fret right there. Well, you can then go 5, 7, A, G. Here's a D note right here, and then you can go 10 or 7, 10. So if I do this, across the fretboard, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 D notes right here at my disposal. And therefore, if I want to like find a cool little spot to start a new little run or a little, I don't know, just something inspiring, I can then start my D major phenomenon at any one of these spots. Like if I was to start on the high E string and go D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. All those notes fit in the key of D major, for example. So that's something that I always do. if I need another note, I'll kick on my tuner, especially if I'm in a wonky tuning, something that is not as common as standard / drop D. I kick on my tuner and then I cross-reference the scale that I want to play, and then I just make sure that that note that I really like, you know, if I just pick this note randomly right here in a different tuning, I'll kick on the tuner and be like, all right, it's that note, does it fit in the scale that I'm trying to convey? I have no problem admitting that, like, I use my tuner to make sure I'm in key, and I think it's an easy way to, like, have a direct reference point and a way to, like, check your work. You know what I mean? Fact check what you think is going to work for your riff. Okay, and then now speaking on the other strings, talking about the high strings, you can also start to incorporate different modes or different ideas, okay? Talking on modes briefly right now. All the modes go in order. All right, and if you guys want some more information, I highly recommend you guys watch all my videos all across my channel talking about modes. Modes are like my favorite thing to talk about because, like I said in the beginning of this video, once I realized what they were, I was like almost insulted because I thought they were supposed to be something so daunting and otherworldly and ethereal, but they're really not. It's just a simple math problem or project. So my point is like all the modes go in order. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian or Locrian. All the modes go in order, and all the notes in a scale go in order, so all you have to do is just drag and drop, plug and play, and marry the two. So my point is this, like, if you have all the modes in order, all the letters of a particular scale, in this instance D major, follow those modes. So if you're playing in the key of D major, all the modes go like this: D Ionian, E Dorian, F sharp Phrygian, G Lydian, use your handy dandy fingers, D, E, F sharp, G, A Mixolydian, B Aeolian, C sharp Locrian, and then back to D Ionian. So if you know the major scale, you already know a mode. It's Ionian. Ionian is major. The next thing you can really focus on is Aeolian. Aeolian is minor, just plain old minor. So as it pertains to rock and metal music, more rock and roll, but it still can be incorporated with metal music, is you can start to use pentatonic scales, for example. So everybody seemingly understands a pentatonic scale, right? So what you can do is you can follow the mode idea and do this. So if you want to play like a minor pentatonic lick in the key of D major, you would just go to what the sixth note of the scale of D major is. And again, in this instance, it's D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. B minor. B minor is what's called the relative minor of D major. And all the notes of B minor are the same exact notes of D major. The notes of B minor are B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, and B. Those are the exact same set of notes as D major, so they fit. This is a beautiful puzzle. You can play a B minor pentatonic lick in a song that is a D major riff. And if I was playing a rhythm section following the chord progression, or the riff is following the notes of D major, that B minor pentatonic would work perfectly. Now, I was just throwing in passing tones, meaning notes that are kind of out of key ever so slightly, like the blue note, aka a tritone. Like I was doing something like something like this. If I just played it stock and just went, it would be correct. Now, if you notice, I'm omitting the low string because of the calibration idea that I was talking about in the beginning. So if I was to follow the pattern, if I went like normally in a standard tuning, that 7/10 is out of key. So what you have to do is you have to go to 9/12. I choose to get rid of the low string whenever I'm playing leads, and you're not really playing leads on low strings anyway, so it's just a simple thing you have to remember. Those notes would fit in the key of D major. I'm going to show you guys another mode, and this is my own personal favorite, and that is Phrygian. Again, a little bit of a review on my channel, but I'm trying to cover all my tracks, all my bases in this video. So a Phrygian scale are the notes and the frets as follows. I'll do the frets first. So it's 0, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. I love that scale. My favorite riffs that I write typically are in Phrygian, and I just think it just sounds cool. So on the fretboard, it's... And the reason why I love it is because open 1. Who doesn't love a good open 1 in metal music? Phrygian is the coolest, man. So this is where it becomes complex, and this is the whole crux of modes, okay? Stay with me. You know how we went over all the modes in order, right? Phrygian's the third one. So if I'm playing a D Phrygian scale, that means I'm playing the third note of some major scale, but I'm choosing to emphasize the D note. Say that again. If I'm playing D Phrygian, Phrygian's the third mode, I'm choosing to emphasize the D note, which in turn means I'm really in the key of some major scale that has D as the third note. And that key is, in fact, B flat. B flat, whole step, C, whole step, D. B flat major and D Phrygian are the exact same set of notes. So if I'm playing D Phrygian, I'm playing in the key of B flat major, really. And then the last thing I'll talk about with D, and then we'll go to a new tuning right here, is the fretboard is separated into 2 octaves, essentially. The halfway point, depending on how many frets you have, is the 12th fret. So you can follow that same concept up the fretboard on the low string. I always view 12 and up is exactly the same as 12 and down. So like I view the fretboard as having 2 little mini fretboards at my disposal, and I can do with it whatever I want. So sticking with let's go back to major, just so we can speak the same language here. If major is 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12, major up goes 12, 14, 16, 17, 19, 21, and now I'm out of frets. I can't go any higher if it's not a 24 fret, because then it's out of key. And I did that consciously several years ago. Like if you guys watch me play or watch my riffs or watch my channel, I'm always up there riffing. And that was actually a conscious choice, right? And the choice was I wanted to get away from the cliche metal thing, which is always down here, like the caveman riffs as we kind of coined them in this. That's awesome and that's fun. Like I am not knocking that at all, but I wanted to get away from that and I wanted to try to do something different. So I always try to start riffs up here past the octave on the low strings. That's just something that I've developed over the years, and like that's something that is inspiring to me, and I think it's cool sounding and I get enjoyment out of that. And yeah, that was a conscious choice to make that a part of my branding and a part of like what I like to do on the instrument. Some people love it, some people don't, but I truly love it. So if you're ever stuck, if you're ever like out of inspiration, you know, if you want to try something different and you're kind of feeling like you're using the same frets all the time or writing the same riff over and over again, go past the octave. Try it up there. I think it'd be pretty sick, and you might come up with some new sounds that you may not necessarily would have tried prior to watching this video, potentially. That's kind of like what I like to do up there past the octave. So now let's get a new guitar, let's get a new tuning, and I'm going to show you guys how everything that I've gone over really can apply to any tuning. The only thing that's going to change is the notes, but the principles and the distance between notes and all that stuff is going to stay exactly the same, okay? So let me change guitars real quick. Okay, so here is my USA Jackson Soloist. Now, this guitar is tuned down to drop C, but as you'll see, pun intended, no pun intended, as you'll notice, right now, this guitar will not be anything different than what I was doing in the whole duration of this video using my drop D guitar. The way I look at the guitar when I change a tuning, I don't really think of the letters much, meaning I view this guitar as a standard tune guitar or a drop D guitar. And that helped me years ago whenever I was trying to learn fretboards. I remember 7 years ago now, when I was trying to take what I was learning in school and apply it to when I came home to make ignorantly heavy, cool, fun music. I was so frustrated, man. Like, I felt like I had to memorize all the fretboards. Like, I would be in drop B. I was big into Slipknot at this time. I would be in drop B, and then I'd go to drop F, and then I would be practicing in standard tuning or drop D. And I just remember, I was like, damn, man, like, I have to remember all these fretboards. This is going to take forever. This is so confusing. And I was starting to confuse myself because I would forget, like, what fretboard am I using? What tuning am I using? And therefore, what are these notes that are, new to me because I just changed my tuning? So what I did, I was like, you know what, dude? I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing because what I'm doing is not working. So I basically just, anytime I have a 6-string dropped guitar, no matter if it's drop D to F or anywhere in between, this guitar is always drop D to me mentally. And that helped me out so much so that I instantly became obsessed with using theory and using it as a tool for me to create, because I wasn't trying to like relearn a fretboard. I just view this guitar, doop, 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 calibrating it in my head. That's the calibrating noise, everybody. I calibrated in my head that this is just a drop D guitar, even though I'm consciously aware that I'm in drop C. And the reason why I did that is because as long as you just play any guitar like you would a drop D guitar mentally, the relationships and the relative minors, the modes, the majors, the pentatonics, all the stuff that I went over in this video, it does not change. The notes are different, but the relationships are exactly the same. So like right here, 5th fret, 5-8, I view this as like an A minor pentatonic, right? For example, like that's just how I view the instrument. Now, I love Phrygian and I love drop C. I kind of fell in love with drop C because I started touring with it, and that became like my guitar tuning by proxy by default because I had to use it for a job. So I started falling in love with drop C, and then I started writing when I got home for my own endeavors. So like the song Everyone Has a Plan, I love that song that I wrote. It's one of mine. It's out everywhere. And the main riff, I wrote it as such. It goes something like this. Put myself on the spot. Hopefully it sounds good. Thank you very much. I wrote that song with Phrygian in mind, and so like the main riff, the like motif of the song, it goes. I wanted to write that riff as something that was challenging. So going from 1 to 10 and throw a pinch in there, that's not easy to do, especially like as that song's moving pretty quickly. So when I was trying to find out what note I wanted to pinch, I literally did what I said in this video. I kicked on my tuner and I was like, how far can I go? Because I wanted it to be challenging physically. And so I found this note right here. Looked at my tuner right now. I have no idea what this fretboard is, but I know it's a D sharp now. So if I was to put the C Phrygian scale on the low string, I know that note right there. That's a D sharp. So if I hit that note, if I didn't pinch it, if I just went, If I hit that note, I know it's in the key, or the correct key of C Phrygian. So I was able to like blend certain things. Like I wanted it to be technical, wanted it to be challenging, wanted it to sound cool, and I wanted it to be in the correct key. So that's how I went and did that. I literally, when I wrote it about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I went like this, literally verbatim. So I found this note right here, and then I found the enharmonic note, meaning the same note, on the 10th fret. So I could go from 1 open 10, 1 open 10. That's hard to do. And it was challenging for me, and I thought it sounded cool. So I used everything that I threw at you guys in this video to write a cool riff. And again, I'm in a completely different tuning. I have no idea what C, drop C's fretboard is. I mean, obviously I have some idea, but you guys know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know it like I do a standard fretboard because I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't change how the notes mesh or gel or vibe with each other or how they relate in terms of music theory. It's all the same, even if you just change your tuning. So everybody, that's how I use music theory in drop tunings and in metal music. Hope you guys learned something from this video. Hope you had fun hanging out with me. I hope you guys take this video and run with it. Make it your own. Take some notes, jot some things down, try it yourself. Is there anything in this video that's confusing? Let me know down below in the comment section, okay? Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I really sincerely appreciate you guys. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in a video very, very soon. Later.